if I might follow up. Is this then a reflection of the frustration with the current stalemate that the FBI is having right now?
The question is this a reflection of the stalemate? I don't believe so. I think it's a reflection of where the events have logically progressed. It would not have served any purpose previously. There was not a focus on their part to try to get the issue resolved. And only until that point where the so-called terms of surrender, or whatever they want to characterize those as being, had reached this point where it was necessary to get a counsel in there who could represent him and in fact fashion perhaps those necessary terms. On the back row.
Yes, Richard Swenson has said that the negotiators have talked about the mechanics once they do decide, if they do decide to come out. What are some of the mechanics you've talked about? Are they going to be taken out in buses and vans? Will they all be separated, go through metal detectors?
Some of the discussions have centered on mechanics. What are those mechanics? Many of those mechanics are negotiable. That is one reason the attorney is present, is that we anticipate he will come back and present to us what they deem to be acceptable terms of surrender. Previously we had said when on March the 2nd, when the surrender was going to take place, we had provided 3 buses that were there. The people would be coming out at regular intervals. Now, whether they are requesting that counsel be present to observe the surrender process, the frisking, all of those are still negotiable, and we believe will be part of what will be presented back to us. Yes, right.
What else have you authorized Mr. DeGuerin to take in some of your earlier offers, like time on the radio, things like that?
The question is, what have we authorized Mr. DeGuerin to do? We have authorized him not to do anything. We have said this is your time to treat it as you deem necessary. Realizing that this has been an event that's gone over 30 days in length. He's new to it, but we have also said that there's a certain amount of urgency, that we do not want the process strung out, but we have given him no marching orders. We do not control him. He is solely there as counsel to Mr. Koresh, to represent Mr. Koresh in the best fashion that he deems necessary, to give him the advice he believes will assist Mr. Koresh in making the decision to leave the compound. On the back row with the headphones on.
Was this a quid pro quo arrangement? Did Mr. Koresh make any concessions to the government in return to having Mr. DeGuerin allowed to enter the compound?
The question is, was it a quid pro quo situation where concessions made? The only concession that was made, and it was really one of us trying to go forward again and in our view, believing that the events had culminated to a point where the insertion of an attorney might be beneficial to us. What was done to show good faith on his part was, 1, resuming negotiations with us. They had been cut off for a period of time from Wednesday to Sunday. 2, giving us a videotape of the children to show, in fact, that they were in good health. We were very concerned about that situation because we had not heard from the children and we had not heard from him. So that was of concern to us. Those goodwill gestures on his part were met. Yes, ma'am, right there.
Will Mr. DeGuerin now have the freedom to go in and out of the compound at any time?
Question, will Mr. DeGuerin have the freedom to go in and out of the compound? Today, what he has been told is that he will have a meeting this morning, and based on how that meeting transpires, more than likely he will be afforded the opportunity for another meeting this afternoon. We will have to determine if it's fruitful for these discussions to continue, or if in fact the discussions are going backward. If we believe that the discussions are progressing at an acceptable rate toward the resolution of this issue, we will allow further discussions. But it's going to be on a discussion by discussion basis. Yes, sir.
I have 2 questions. While being privy to Mr. DeGuerin's conversations, how do you determine whether these discussions are fruitful?
The question is, Without being privy to discussions, how will we know whether those discussions are productive? We will have to rely, at this point, obviously, on the representations of Mr. DeGuerin as an officer of the court. His reputation is also on the line here. He realizes that himself. He's taking a big risk. We're relying on his professionalism. He does not want to be here for 2 weeks trying to negotiate an end of this. He realizes that he has a relatively short time span, and I won't say he has today only or today and tomorrow. I don't know what that is, but jointly, based on what takes place, we will have to make the decision as to whether additional meetings will take place. A follow-up?
And the follow-up is regarding the mechanics of getting Mr. DeGuerin involved. You said there have been 4 conversations, including the one this morning.
Yes.
When he was speaking to his client on the telephone, were those conversations also confidential?
All the discussions that he has had with his client have been treated as confidential discussions. Initially, we set up a telephonic contact on Sunday afternoon at approximately 6:30, where Mr. DeGuerin was able to call into the compound and speak privately with David Koresh. That conversation, we said you will be given 30 minutes to confirm that Mr. Koresh does want to speak with counsel in trying to end this issue. We completely severed any monitoring of those telephone lines. He was given a 30-minute conversation. That was from 6:30 to 7 p.m. on Sunday. We came back on the line at 7 and said, okay, your 30 minutes is up. And he says, I think I'm making some progress here. I would like to have at least 15 more minutes with my client. We allowed that to continue, primarily to confirm that he did want the meetings and that a face-to-face meeting would take place on Monday. On Monday, Mr. DeGuerin arrived here at approximately 10:30 from Houston. He drove in. The first conversation, again treated privately by him with Mr. Koresh, occurred from noon to approximately 1 p.m. Again, I cannot say for sure what the substance was, but furthering the face-to-face meeting. He then had another conversation from 1:30 to 2 p.m. With Mr. Koresh. Then the face-to-face meeting was set up, which lasted from 4 p.m. yesterday until approximately 6 p.m. yesterday evening. Yes, ma'am, I agree.
You said that you talked to Koresh since the discussions yesterday and the day before. What indications are you getting from him? Is he upbeat about this? I mean, what kind of change have you seen in Koresh after these conversations have been?
The question is, what is the demeanor of David Koresh following these discussions? To be honest, we're not pushing it. We do not want to pry into what conversations have taken place with his counsel. The discussions, however, overall, besides complaining about being very tired, he still complains about the pain he's suffering from his injuries, do seem to be upbeat, particularly by Steve Snyder and those surrounding David Koresh. But because we are not saying, how did the conversations go? What do you think it means? Does it mean you're coming out? We have removed ourselves somewhat from that negotiating posture because that is all coming from his counsel. So more what we are doing is setting up the logistics of additional meetings, and also yesterday, as I indicated, we delivered a battery. We are only following up on certain logistical issues, arranging the meeting this morning and the delivery of the item that I mentioned. Follow up?
Well, easily is, are they bringing it up? I know you guys aren't pushing it, but are they mentioning it, bringing it up in conversations?
Bringing up what? I'm sorry.
The meetings and talks with Mr. DeGuerin.
Are they bringing up the meetings with Mr. DeGuerin? Obviously, they're bringing those up, but they are not getting into discussions with us with regard to the content of those discussions. Yes.